Hello and welcome to episode 129 of The Entrepreneurial Musician. I am your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by my globe-trotting co-host who hates travel.
Wait a minute. This is not The Entrepreneurial Musician.
Did I really just say that?
Yeah.
Should we just keep it?
That's fine with me. I don't care.
So, hello and welcome to the Brass Junkies. I am your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by my what did I say? I never write it down. My globe-trotting co-host who hates traveling, Lance LaDuke. Lance, how are you?
I'm stunned that I'm more clear-headed than you are at this point.
I think it's like sympathy jet lag at this point. That's really funny. You started laughing, and sometimes he laughs because I usually take a breath and then I pause for just a second before I go into the intro, and if he's actually watching me, it always cracks him up, and then I just have to ignore him. But that was like a full-blown audible laugh, and I was like, what is happening? So
yeah, I was trying to decide how long to let you go.
It's okay. I am a professional podcaster, everyone. Just relax. So Lance, where did you just get back from?
Malawi, Africa.
I'm glad you said Africa, so it wasn't Malawi, Indiana. It was
Malawi, Indiana is much closer.
What were you doing there? The short version, we don't really care.
The shortest possible version was I taught Malawians to read Western-style music notation.
That's pretty wild.
It is pretty wild.
And you also brought your bride.
I brought my bride, and she taught
brought her groom.
That's a way better way of saying it. She taught a group of about 15 or 16 women to sew. There's a number of sewing machines over. It's a longer story. We should unpack it at some point. It's kind of fascinating. But she taught these women a skill, and 11 of them are taking an ongoing 6-month class with a tailor from Mulanje, Malawi, and they are learning to make items that they can use for their families. They can sell. They can make uniforms for this school that my church built over there. So she actually did things that will cause these people to have better lives than they did before we got there, which was really inspiring. And then I taught a bunch of people to play some music, which was fun and cool. But I think she really actually she changed the world for the better.
She is a better person in general. So anyway, I'm not really that surprised.
It's fair.
Not the highest bar. Anyway.
And I got to see a 30-foot crocodile dragging a dead hippopotamus through some water. I have video.
You're not talking
evidence
in
of
code,
that.
Right?
Not talking in code. No, it was kind of remarkable. We were on this boat and we came around a corner, and first we saw something. Then we're like, I wonder what that is. Then we turned this corner and caught a whiff of one of the worst things I've ever smelled. And then it all kind of came together in our minds at the same time. Oh, that thing we couldn't recognize is a dead hippopotamus. And, there's a whole bunch of crocodiles. Oh, there's an extremely large crocodile dragging the carcass of this dead hippo.
I bet it didn't smell as bad as your hotel room did in Lahti, Finland, when I interviewed you for the band director's guide for everything trombone book.
That's fair.
That was,
on par. On par,
something.
I would say. My feet did smell like a dead hippo.
I have mentioned this one other time on the podcast, but Lance went through a phase where he was trying to take as few clothes on the road as possible. Like we would go into Europe for 2 weeks, and he'd show up with a small backpack and a jacket that had 85 pockets.
Oh, but my wife hates that. It's gone. That coat's been gone. That was one of the first things that had to go when we started dating. She's like, yeah. Choose now.
Your outlook on life and the vest. So anyway, it was I cannot put into a great poet could not put into words the smell of that hotel room, and I stayed in there for 45 minutes in the name of music education.
Yeah.
Anyway, today's guest, Martin McCain, awesome. We did this right before Lance went.
That's a segue right there. I like that. Hard break.
I'm looking. It's like 4:30 in. I'm like, oh, we're gonna get emails. We're gonna get emails. So, Martin, this was awesome. We did this conversation with him before Lance went to Africa because he was just gone for a couple of weeks straight. And yeah, it's great. He's a fascinating guy, and we talk about his life in Texas, and we talk about his life in Memphis, and we talk a lot about barbecue. And yeah, this is a great conversation. I think you're going to really enjoy it. We wanted to thank everybody. We got to 200 ratings on Apple Podcasts, right? The latest 5-star review is from Youngstown Tuba. Pray for Jens. This is my favorite podcast to listen to. I enjoy hearing all of the jackass humor every episode, although the 2 S's are asterisks, but I cracked the code. This is a great podcast for brass players. It has opened my eyes to different viewpoints and ways to think about how I play my tuba. Keep doing what you are doing, Lance and Hitz, and my prayers are with Jens in the new year. Hopefully he adopts the hashtag New Year, New Chops motto. That's really
nice.
Funny. Yeah, that's good. So thank you to everybody who has left a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. Also, head over to patreon.com/thebrassjunkies, where we continue to churn out bonus content, including the Jacob's Quotes podcast, the Music Practice Coast podcast, and a bunch of other stuff. And without further ado, we are going to get to our conversation with Martin McCain. Today on the Brass Junkies, we are joined by a bass trombonist. How about that, Lance?
Wow.
We interviewed a euphonium player.
We only have illustrious bass trombone.
Oh, sorry.
John Rojak and now Martin McCain.
and the illustrious Martin McCain. Martin, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Where are you at home right now?
Well, it's always a tricky question. I have 2 homes, and so I'm in my home in Memphis, Tennessee at the moment.
Okay. And where? Yeah. And your other home obviously is in I'm assuming that you don't travel from Memphis to Texas State University like 4 times a week to teach. That would be quite a commute.
Oh gosh, no. Yeah. So like our other home's in Austin, Texas, which is like 20 minutes outside of San Marcos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. There you go. And how long have you lived in both places?
I've been doing this my wife and I have been doing this for about 4 years. So she's a ridiculous pianist. And 4 years ago, she got a job at the University of Memphis, which happens to be my hometown. And yeah, so it just all worked out. Ironically, she's from Texas. So it's like I work in her home state. She works in my hometown. And so we put our calendars together and make it work out.
Wow, there you go. I was gonna wait until later in the episode. I saw you tweeted something about smoking some meat over like 10 hours or something recently, and I was gonna ask you about that. But I will share with you that the first time that I went to your hometown was well, because I'm a big Fish fan, I'm like Rain Man about dates. It was actually June 14th of 1995, and which was a legendary Fish concert, by the way. And no, they're not all legendary. This is like top 1% that they've ever played. But as impressive as that was at the Mud Island Amphitheater, which was surreal. I mean, with like boats going by and the Memphis skyline behind the band, and there was like an 11 out of 10 sunset behind the venue, like over the Mississippi River. I mean, it was just like, oh my goodness, it was amazing. It was a magical night, but it was also a magical afternoon because I had Memphis barbecue for the first time ever, and that like blew my mind. I mean, I'm from New England, and you can find good barbecue, like again, good. You cannot find great or amazing barbecue really anywhere, and I had never had like great barbecue. And just went to Corky's, and the ribs that I got at that meal, they like changed my life. It was like,
I love Corky's.
Yep.
I grew up on Corky's, but actually, I want to say that was the first barbecue I had when we moved back here 4 years ago. And yeah, I'm like, wow, I don't know what I've been missing out on. This is actually pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. But yeah, that changed me. I was like, so you people, meaning the entire world, have been hiding this from me up until like so far. I was like 19, and I was like, why has it taken all of you 20 years to get me this into my hands? So. Our waitress was actually laughing at us because we were nothing crazy inappropriate, but we were being loud and just stupid. And then those ribs came, and then she was like, "You all are significantly quieter than you were when you arrived." And I was
nice.
like, that is true. Yeah, it's because I'm having a spiritual experience here over this rack of ribs. So anyway, so you smoke your own meat?
I do. Like I grew up loving barbecue. And actually, before my family moved to Memphis, we lived in the Midwest. I was born in Chicago, and then we lived in Indiana. And so I grew up on that, I guess, Kansas City style type barbecue.
Sure.
And so I always loved it. And then, of course, when we moved to Memphis, it's one of the, few barbecue capitals. It was a totally different vibe. Loved that. Went off to grad school, and I loved it. But I'm like, you know what? I need to start doing this myself, and realize it was a thing. And then it became a hobby, and it's at the point now I have 4 smokers in my backyard.
Oh my goodness!
It's getting scary because my wife's afraid that I'm about to have more smokers and trombones. and I'm actually working on my.
There's your album title right there.
Yeah, so I just love it, and especially being a Tennessee boy who's lived in Texas for 15 years, which is another barbecue capital.
Sure.
I just love to just bridge all that stuff together, and it's a lot of fun. It's what I like to do outside of music.
And what is your favorite? What's the best thing that you make?
Okay. I would say pork ribs, because that's whenever I'm going to a restaurant, that's how I test them out. Like, I'll usually get pork ribs and baked beans and coleslaw. However, being in Texas for 15 years, I've been prone to beef because that's not a thing in Tennessee at all.
Right.
I didn't even know what brisket was until I moved to Texas.
Sure.
But yeah, just smoking a brisket, that's what I did on that 10-hour smoke, which actually turned into 16 hours. And you want to learn patience. Like I always tell my students, like, if you want to learn patience, smoke a brisket.
I like it. Lance is typing some more Easter eggs here, which we call our show notes, which are usually helpful and let you know what's talked about. No, not these. Yeah, that's
it's helpful.
Yeah, that's what's helpful.
And they do let you know what we talked about. Just indirectly.
Yeah. Just
that
after
last one, if you're curious. Well, so far we have illustrious bass trombone players. We have Fish Memphis Barbecue. We have more smokers than trombone, and we have the 16-hour, 10-hour smoke.
16.
That can go many ways.
Say, Oh, that's funny. Yep. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, anytime that I go to a barbecue place, and obviously I know what different regions are famous for what, for in general, I know that I'm not going to go to Texas and then go to 4 places and try the pork only at all of them.
Right.
But I always just walk in and say, what am I getting? Like, you tell me, it's like, what is it that you run out of? Yeah, because all of the locals eat it until it's gone. And then I just get that. So,
hey man, have we told the story about Fred Powell and barbecue dial-up?
No, I don't think that we have. A previous guest, Fred Powell. So this was before smartphones and before, Yelp is, Yelp is what it is. It's, as a friend once described it, Yelp is an app for snitches, which I thought was,
that's good.
Which I thought was hilarious.
That's funny.
So yeah, that is funny. His name is Dan. Dan Purcell. He is a funny dude. He's a lawyer too. They're not usually funny. But this one is. So, but when we would be traveling anywhere in the South or anywhere in the Midwest and when I say anywhere, I mean anywhere, you could just call Fred or text him and say like, hey, I'm in fill in the blank, North Carolina. Where should I get barbecue? And then he would tell you the 3 places that were near there and what to get. It was like a barbecue app that was that had local knowledge of everywhere. That was just a human. It's
wow.
I mean, my most vivid memory of it was we were driving either south or north on 95 in North Carolina, and we called, and he goes, "What mile marker are you at?" Like he needed more data, like not just in the state, but like, oh, okay, I can tell. All right, well, what you're gonna do is in about 3.5 miles, you'll see an exit, but you won't see the place from the exit. So just get off and go for a couple of miles, and it'll be on the right, and get the mulligan stew.
Yeah,
Nice.
He would always. He would tell you the dish to get. I mean, yeah, everything short of like the woman's name who would ring you up. I mean, yeah, it was.
Wow,
it was amazing.
I remember too that we were in some corner booth someplace, and we were all just eating and gabbing and doing or whatever, and then I think he was the last one eating, but the waitress came over to collect the plates that weren't, that didn't have any food on them. His had a little bit of food on them. And she went to go for the plate, and he just sort of looked up at her over his glasses. And she goes, I guess I'll leave that for you. And he goes, I figured you would.
Gave her a look that both told her that she was in danger, but also like did not trigger her to like call the cops or like, it was just like, if you continue down this path, there's going to be problems, but otherwise we're totally fine. Yeah. It was like...
I don't move quickly often, but I'm about to. And here's also like the biggest discrepancy between his speaking voice and his laugh. His laugh is like 7 octaves higher than his speaking voice somehow.
Oh, wow.
Improbably. Yeah.
That is true. So you are a 3rd-generation musician.
Yeah. I mean, it's on both sides of my family.
Wow.
My dad's mom was a church organist. And then on my mom's side of the family, like the lineage is crazy. My mom, like she did piano some, but her dad, my grandfather's a recent retired concert organist. And so like I grew up hearing him practice all the time. Like he was diligent, like practicing like every day. He was one of the chief, the chief developers for Allen organ, like the digital organ. And so, yeah, he was touring all over the place, which was amazing just growing up seeing that. His mom was she was a singer, and she was a part of a all-black female quartet. And they were the first black female quartet to be publicized on Chicago radio. Broadcast. And my grandmother's side of the family, I just found this out within the last 10 years. They had a hotel in Jackson, Mississippi that was called the Summers Hotel and Subway Lounge. And they actually did a documentary on it. And basically, it was one of the few places that hosted black musicians in just back in the day, like the 30s, the 40s.
Right.
And so a lot of like ridiculous jazz musicians performed at this lounge at night. And I want to say the documentary was called Last of the Mississippi Jukes. And I haven't watched it yet. I'm embarrassed to say, but yeah, I want to check it out because like I went to college in Mississippi and gigged in Jackson all the time and had no idea I had like these family roots there, and not even sure if the hotel. I don't think the hotel exists anymore, but if there's a landmark or anything, but yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome.
So your grandfather's side was the Chicago side, and your grandmother's side was who was north and who was south?
So my mom's side of the family, my grandmother's side was on the south.
Because my grandfather, man, how cool would this be? My grandfather was a jazz drummer, and he was his day gig was he was a milk. He would go to the dairy farms and pick up the milk and then take it to the dairy to be processed, and it kept him out of the war. So then he would drive, and it was in southwestern Lower Michigan. He would drive about 70 miles every Friday after work, so 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and he would play jazz all weekend with everybody. So who's who of, in fact, there's upstairs on the mantle is a picture of him with Sidney Bechet.
Wow.
And so it's like, how funking cool would that have been if our grandfathers played together?
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Jamming
It's
out.
same time zone. I mean, same time. Not I don't mean time period. Same time period. That's cool, man.
Yeah, small world. Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, man.
Last is Mississippi Jukes. I'm going to put a link to the IMDb about it in the show notes as well.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's funny because when I was in Mississippi, so even though I'm from Memphis, I actually went to high school, junior high, and college in Mississippi because my parents' house is 5 minutes from the Mississippi border. And so I have this connection with Mississippi. And so I didn't know any of this about my family's heritage and like the music background. And so, yeah, just thought it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Wow. In fact, I've just been Googling here. Yeah, that the hotel was demolished in 2004. But yeah, it in 1944 was when it was established. And many black musicians lodged there during the era of segregation. Yeah, crazy, man.
Yeah. So that was, my grandmother's maiden name is Summer. So yeah, that was her family.
Wow, that's an interesting history.
Yeah,
really cool.
That's amazing. There you go. So you've that's fascinating. So you've got like Memphis, you got Mississippi, you've got Texas roots. You've got like that's pretty cool. So so if you grew up in Memphis, I see that you've played some with the Memphis Symphony. What was the first time that you got to play with the Memphis Symphony? What was that like?
That was, when we had our transition back to Memphis. So I guess about 4 years ago, 4 seasons ago. I knew if I was going to be back at home, I would love to work as much as possible. And fortunately, the guy I studied with, 7th through the 12th grade, is the principal trombone player, Greg Luscombe. And told him I was going to be in town. And he put me on the sub list. And so I've been subbing with them the last couple of seasons. And what's actually crazy is I never played bass trombone with them. I'm always playing tenor. I'm playing second trombone. So a lot of people in the orchestra think I'm a tenor trombone player, which is crazy. And so I'm like, no, I'm definitely fooling you guys. I'm not a tenor player.
Tenor's just an easier version of the bass trombone, right?
Right.
Did you do much stuff with Kevin Sanders or John Mueller at Memphis?
No, actually, John has had me not even within the last 4 years, but even like I've been doing things at U of M. Golly, within the last 10. He's been great. I've known John ever since he got there. I was a college student.
Oh, wow.
And Kevin, unfortunately, we have not had a chance to play with each other yet. And we know each other. I've known Kevin for many years.
He's great. But, what a great player.
No, he's fantastic. So
John was in the Army band when I was in the Air Force band 8,000 years ago. So before you were in college, let's put it that way.
Oh, are you older than Martin, Lance?
Well, only decades. Awesome band programs at the University of Memphis as well. Some really cool stuff going on there. Albert Wynn is doing cool things, and
he was my classmate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we went to the University of Texas together. We're good friends.
Andrew and I used to do this thing periodically with banddirector.com where we would go to these huge marching band shows and we'd be up in the press box doing the play-by-play. We would sort of divide up. We never did the same one at the same time, but I was at the University of Memphis. Did you ever do that one, Andrew?
I did
that one
not.
A couple of times.
I did not ever do the Memphis one, no.
That was really cool. A lot of fun, and those guys would always sort of stop by and give us trouble. But what do you expect?
Kevin had me into the University of Memphis, I don't know, a few years ago, which was great, and I ate a lot of barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've eaten at a lot of the places, a lot of the big places in town. So, yeah, it's that's like the one thing I miss about traveling is like getting to eat like food regularly like that. And I'm spoiled because DC has amazing food and has some really great food of a bunch of different, but you sure as hell can't get barbecue here that's as good as Memphis or Kansas City or St. Louis or many places in Texas, as you mentioned. So
right.
So,
I want to back up. Well, go ahead. What do you think?
Oh, no, I was saying, I love the food in Washington, D.C., too. I couldn't tell you some of the names of the places, but there's a Balkan place that I love going to when I go to the American Trombone Workshop that is just ridiculous.
Yeah, there's some great food here. really great food, and lots of like near I live like way out in the suburbs, and there's a killer Ethiopian place that's like half a mile from my house, so 25 miles outside of town. Yeah, it's just there's no rhyme or reason to it. The city I live in is like probably 60% Korean residents, and so there's like unbelievable Korean barbecue here. Like it's like you're in Seoul. I mean, it's amazing. But then there's also just like there's not a huge Ethiopian population out here, and there's an amazing Ethiopian restaurant. So an amazing Korean fried chicken restaurant. There's nothing that keeps you slim. But
man, I'm getting hungry right now.
Yeah, right.
Talking to you guys.
Right. So Andrew, for the bonus episode, we should tell the story of the being in a Korean barbecue place in Korea and having fried chicken delivered to the place. That will be the tease.
That's pretty good.
A good one.
That whole night is a good story. Yeah, we should tell that whole story, but halfway through we should hit stop, and then Martin can hear the second half because that can't be anything that's like that's recorded for the historical record. I think
we had quite a year that night. So let's back up a moment. And you, growing up with so many musicians around, was for me. For me, it was inspiring, and it also it was just a part and parcel of life. Was that people just played music, and people came to the house just to listen to the other people play them. It was just like part of it. Mm-hmm. And then, in addition to that, though, there was this insider information that being a musician is awesome but hard, and so they did everything they could to talk me out of doing it because they just knew what kind of life I was going to be signed up for. Did you experience anything resembling that?
No, I mean, my family was definitely supportive, but like I said, my dad, he played clarinet. He's from Philly and actually went to high school with some ridiculous musicians like the famous pianist Leon Bates. So like he knew what it took to be a musician. Like my dad's actually he's a preacher, so he's not in like the industry. But he would just say certain things. Like for instance, when I was in high school, I was strictly classically trained. That's all I wanted to do. And he said, if you want to eat, like you need to know how to play like all the styles. And because I just jazz was cool, but especially since there was no jazz band at my high school, I just I had no outlet for it. And so, but yeah, I mean, they were just always supportive. Like I always had private lessons, like from the moment I started playing, and they were just really good at that. But yeah, it was never discouraging whatsoever.
That's pretty cool. So you started on trombone. That was what you picked?
No, man, this is crazy. So I initially started on piano. I want to say 4th grade, which was a great foundation. So I was like learning how to read music and count rhythms. And then at the time in Indianapolis, we actually started band in the 5th grade as opposed to down south where you start in the 6th grade. So when it was time to try out for band instruments, they tried a trumpet mouthpiece, and that wasn't happening, man. My lips were just too big. And so they gave me a bigger mouthpiece and said, "Hey, how about you play this baritone?" I'm like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
And so
don't we all want to know?
But so I played it, 5th grade. But
the first question is always what, and the second question is always why.
Why?
But the thing is, I wanted to play saxophone because my friends were playing saxophone too, and I just thought it was cool. I want to say that Mo Better Blues just came out.
Nice.
And
you are,
I was just like, golly, even though I had no business watching that movie when I was that age. But yeah, just, I loved, Wesley Snipes, his impersonation of Branford Marsalis in that movie. And so anyway.
Because Mo Better is Mo Better.
Mo Better, yeah, exactly. It's still one of my favorite movies of all times. And yeah.
Has one of the hardest scenes in movie history to watch if you're a brass player, though.
Yeah, and that's actually why I can't watch that movie. Like I'll skip over it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all of us feel that way.
Man,
not everything in life's supposed to be easy, Lance.
Oh, crap! You mean I shouldn't have picked the euphonium? Because that's been easy.
I would submit it's slightly easier than the bass trombone, but and before any of you euphonium players email me to complain, the first I would like to point out that the first time I said that to Lance, he said something to the effect of, "Oh hell yeah, it is." So yeah, he encouraged me. So yeah, he had the opportunity to set me straight, and he made that concrete set on my opinion of the fact that the euphonium is, well, it's easy. So yeah,
it's like this. Saxophone is amazingly easy to get a sound out of. Just to get from zero to something is the easiest of the woodwinds, and without question, the euphonium is definitely that for the brass. I mean, that's just the beginning. Now, it doesn't mean that you will automatically become professional or that you'll become expert at it, but just go from zero to something. That's the low hanging fruit.
Rex Martin once famously said that that the good saxophone players, now at Northwestern when Fred Hemke was alive, and it was an amazing saxophone studio, but he said that a good saxophone undergraduate at Northwestern could play music faster than he could think about it. He's like, I think it's good, but I can't even follow it. So I'm just assuming that it's good because they look very confident.
That's euphonium music too, actually, now that I think about it.
Yep.
I've been in, I remember producing a record for Matthew Murchison, and he was playing some ridiculous technical thing, and I remember saying, I think that's fine. He's like, no, I missed one of those notes, and I'm looking at it, and I'm listening to it back over and over and over. It's going by so quickly, I can't process what's happening. And I'm like, okay, man, you want another run at it? Take another run at it. It's all good. Noodle. Wow.
It was the 18th noodle. Yeah, it was the dull was just a little. It was like a little dull. Yeah,
and that was the ballad.
Oh my god.
Speaking of noodling, Parker Mouthpieces provides the hosting for the Brass Junkies, and we needed to thank them, and I thought that I had it up on the screen, and then I didn't, and so now I'm searching for it. That was awesome. Because
Parker used his noodle to make some fine component mouthpieces.
Yeah, yes, fine component mouthpieces. They are customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, which is euphonium's easy, Lance. It's even easier with the Parker mouthpiece.
I would concur with that.
And also the tuba, including the Andrew Hitz artist model tuba mouthpiece, because I mean. Like if I'm nothing if not an artist,
you're nothing.
I mean, I'm a specialist. I'm very good at the root of chords, and I'm also very good at playing just slightly behind the beat. But the Andrew Hitz artist model tuba mouthpiece, and then the Lance LaDuke model euphonium mouthpiece. By the way, the fact that I only play slightly behind the beat is why I'm able to pay my mortgage as a professional tuba player.
Hey, there you go.
Right? Yep, low bar. That's all right. Find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So Martin, tell us about your duo.
What? How many people are in your duo?
3. No.
That would be awesome.
So like my duo with my wife, we call ourselves a McCain duo. I guess you can say it started when we got married. The funny thing is, when I first met her, like our first date, we kind of met in grad school, not really, because when I graduated, she came in like the next semester, but we had mutual friends and whatnot. And so I remember we're just talking. I'm like, maybe this could be a line like, hey, we should play together. And she was like, no.
So she's smart.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Awesome. Her radar went off. She was like, he doesn't want to make music. Get out of here. I've got options.
Because all she was thinking was Hindemith and Schulich. And so
right?
I'm like, yeah.
There you go.
So, yeah. But she always jokes that she wanted me to sign a prenuptial, a piano prenuptial.
Piano prenup.
Yeah.
There's a good Easter egg. Piano prenup. Yeah. That's like, yeah, if you meet a piano player and you think that you may want to possibly spend the rest of your life with this person, you do not ask them to play the Hindemith Sonata for you at any point.
Yeah.
That's kind of like you're burning all of your political capital forever at once at that point. Like, that doesn't really scream like fifth date, or fifth month.
Man,
or
who are you telling me? Golly. I swear that's made me a better teacher, and especially just more just aware of, what pianists are going through, and that they have more lines that we have to learn. And so, yeah.
They have to play. The day I figured out that not only do they have to play more than one note at a time, but they don't only play the same degree of the chord. It's like, you guys are like, this is like, you're experts. You're like music experts. That's above my pay grade on a lot of fronts. Yeah.
She usually charges extra for Hindemith and Schulich. So now I see why.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's going to be more. I begrudgingly have respect for piano players who say yes, and then they just sound like ass because they just don't practice it. There's just like the notes they do play, the runs are totally uneven. They're like, leaving out half the notes. Like, it's like, yeah, they're just kind of like, it's like a quick read through, but I'm just in I'm wearing a suit while I do it. It's like, well, okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Good for you.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway. So what kind of stuff do you guys do?
Well, when we first started, we're doing a lot of the standard things, but we both like commissioning music. And so we decided to get a couple of our favorite composers, either people we went to school with or people we just enjoyed their music anyway, and have them write music for us. And so so that's been really fun, like to be able to work with composers. And with a lot of the music that we're doing, we didn't want it to be, it's very bass trombone heavy with piano accompaniment. We wanted, sometimes like I might not be the melodic role, I could be the bass line while she's taking over, so it's actually a duo. And so yeah, that's been a lot of fun. And we actually have a new project that's going to be coming out within the next year. I think we're going to record it next summer, of all sacred music. But it's sacred music with a twist, because like I grew up, Doug Yo is one of my heroes, and, grew up playing a lot of his, sacred music hymns in church. And, it was one gig we were playing at a church, and I started thinking, I'm like, man, I'm not bored with playing this music, but I just want to do something else. And so, we had an idea, why don't we get some of our favorite composers and arrangers and have them arrange sacred music, but with different styles like R&B and jazz and a lot of the music that we like, and crossover music. And so that's what's going to be on our next album.
That's awesome. Will the instrumentation go beyond the two of you? I mean, will you add and guests and friends, or is it just going to be the two of you?
It's just going to be us two. One of the pieces, which is actually a suite, it's a 3-movement suite, we're thinking about adding drums and bass as well. But it's mainly going to be like a duo album. I mean, the albums I've done before, like we've been on the same album, but they weren't really labeled as a duo because we actually had friends joining us. So this will be like the official first McCain duo album.
I see. That's exciting.
Hey, I see that you guys were at Mahidol University in September.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. How did you guys end up there? That's a long ways from home.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So first, with Mahidol, the trombone professor there was actually my wife's classmate at CIM. And we've known each other actually for many, many years. Just, how it is, like social media. Like you talk to people, but you never meet. And Mike Robinson's name. And then we met each other for the first time in Malaysia with the Malaysia Philharmonic back in March.
Okay.
And so we decided like, hey, like let's go out to Bangkok. And we've been going to Asia a lot the last couple of years, and we tied it around one of the tours I was doing with the Malaysia Phil. And the cool thing about traveling in Asia, I mean, it's ridiculously cheap. And so, I mean, going from Kuala Lumpur to Bangkok was equivalent of 75 USD. And so yeah, went over there, and unfortunately, that was our first time in Thailand, and we were only there for 48 hours, and it was not enough time to really just drink it in.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it was absolutely amazing just being in Bangkok, and the food, like we're both foodies, like we love eating and traveling. And so, yeah, just like the whole culture was awesome. The vibe was nice. Just the facilities at Maidon.
Yeah, they're really nice, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, just like ridiculous. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
You know, it was probably, 10 years ago we were there, Andrew?
Yeah. Did you go
Something
once?
like that?
I've been 2 or 3 times. But yeah.
I can't remember.
Maybe about 10 years ago.
At the time, I remember talking with their boss, and he had a plan to plant an orchard on the grounds of the conservatory, which had every tree or plant that is involved in instrument making. So there would be cane, there would be ebony, there would be any kind of wood that an instrument or a part of an instrument could be made from. He was going to have trees planted that represented. He was going to have this musical forest, was how he described it. It was a really interesting idea, just sort of stuck in my head, and be interesting to see what was going on with that. Now, if it even got off the ground, it was just sort of a kind of a cool idea.
Interesting.
Yeah, Joe Bowman, who's the trumpet professor there, he and I went to Arizona State together a long time ago. So he left.
Okay.
He left with a doctorate, and I left with a couple of suitcases. But
he's great. You had a chance to meet him.
Yeah, he is great. So yeah, that was our initial. I don't know if I've been there 2 or 3 times with Boston Brass over the years, and I see that you were also at the Hong Kong Academy for the Performing Arts, which we
Chickenfoot.
which we also we will. That is a good bonus. That's a good bonus episode story. We will tell the story of the chicken foot in Hong Kong for the bonus episode here.
Oh, so, you guys ate it?
Well, we're not going to spoil it. We're not going to spoil it.
That's right.
So, yeah, it's good stuff. So
nice.
That's a great school. That's also, they've got amazing facilities there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, good stuff. Hey, Lance, Pappered People.
Yes. What about them?
What? Put your phone down and read about the Pappered People.
Who? There's these people, and they are called Pappered People. We like them very much. They are all centered around the Mary Papert School of Music at Duquesne University in beautiful and sunny Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We had snow squalls yesterday that buggered up the works. Oh, my gosh. Wow. Cats and dogs living together in peace. And so the Papert people have decided that they like what we're doing here at the Brass Junkies, and so they have generously become a sponsor, or they have maintained their sponsorship for a number of years now, and we greatly appreciate that. And so you would do us a great favor to go to the show notes and scroll past all of the Easter eggs, and you'll see a set of links. And first you click on the links for Martin's awesome projects. And then just beyond that, you'll find a link that will take you to the Land of the Papert People, which is a page that was designed specifically for fans of the Brass Junkies to find out about the faculty in the Papert School of Music, the organizations and ensembles you can play with, and more. I don't know what and more is, but I'm going to stay with and more. What was that?
I hear
piano?
Music. Yeah, I hear piano.
I hear music.
Oh, yeah.
I might be dying.
That's all right.
Are we in heaven? No, you're fine. So thank you very much. Please visit the page in the show notes, and special thanks to Jim. That's not a piano, Nova.
I was also hearing my next door neighbor has been this is going to be going on for like a couple of weeks. It sounds like she keeps on putting nails into the wall to like hang pictures, but like she's done this enough to fill the National like Gallery of Art at this point. So I really don't I don't know what's going on over there. Yeah, it's like I don't know. It's like a very, very like tastefully done construction site. So so that's cool. Life in the big city. Good stuff. So you've got 3 albums out on your own, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about one or all of those, or if you got another one in the works, or But yeah, what made you want to record an album in the first place? Because everybody wants to, and then it's like it's a lot of work. And you, as you know,
gosh.
you've done
Absolutely.
it 3 times.
Oh, absolutely. And one, just I like performing, and I feel like that's a good way to really just learn about yourself too. Like when you're recording, and so like that first one was really unique. I love Russian music, and I feel like it fits the sonority of bass trombone as well. And so my wife and I, we were doing a Russian tour at the time, just a Russian repertoire, and then she would do some of the classic like Rachmaninoff preludes as well. And then we decided like, hey, let's put an EP out, and but let's do something different. Let's make it all live. And so there was a couple of live performances, and also the KMFA, which is a classical radio station in Austin. They're fantastic. They really support their local artists, and we've been on their radio station quite a few times, and they were able to let us use some of those tracks as well. And so we put out a live EP of that music.
Nice.
And then I guess the most recent one came out in 2015, where the first CD was called Trombone Czar, Russian Treasures Recorded Live. And then the third one, 2015, was Trombone Czar, the extended version. So we remastered all those original tracks. And then one of my friends and colleagues, Jack Wild, who's an amazing composer, he already arranged a couple of pieces for it was bass voice and trombone choir. And so I thought, oh, this would be cool to record those pieces too, because I love trombone choir, and just the schools that I went to, we had a great trombone choir heritage. We have that at Texas State. And so it was an opportunity to bring my friends in and also some students as well. And so that's what we recorded on the extended version. Shades, which was the second album that came out in 2014, that was special because that was where we actually got to work with composers and commission works too. So the title track, Shades, was written by our friend and classmate Marcus Wiltshire, who is a ridiculous saxophone player, and back to saxophone.
Redundant deal.
But like a ridiculous composer too, like a jazz composer. And so with Shades, like he was thinking about I'm trying to think of that show. There was a movie with Johnny Depp. He was the barber, Sweeney Todd. And so Shades kind of comes from Beautiful Women too. And so if you kind of listen to that, there's a little bit of that vibe. And Marcus, he's really into movies, and so he kind of likes meshing all that together. And I had my own arrangements on there as well, let's see, Carl Maria von Weber's Romance, which was a piece that I just grew up listening to and hearing my tenor trombone colleagues play, and I adapted it for bass trombone. And so yeah, that was a fun project as well.
How are you? That's a whole lot of projects and a lot of commissions and a lot of touring. So how are you? Let's start with the first two. Where are you raising the funds to generate these recordings and commissions?
He's a hand model.
Man,
that makes sense.
You know what? I'm still trying to figure that out. I mean, luckily, because I've had, different projects. I've done some that were like crowdfunding source, like Kickstarter, but that weren't these 3 projects. These 3 projects, I've been very fortunate. Texas State has this research enhancement program grant that is actually extremely hard to get. And I didn't realize that at first, because actually the first 2 times I applied, I got it. And but then I applied, like the last 2 times I applied and I didn't get it. So I'm like, wow, this is really difficult. But I guess I just found out 2 weeks ago that I got another one. And so that's what's actually going to help fund the McCain Duo Sacred Music album.
That's cool.
But yeah, so, I mean, luckily, we have resources like that helps out tremendously. And I've been on sabbatical this past semester. And so I've actually had more time to, try to work on grants. I mean, I don't think I'm great at it, but, luckily I've been fortunate to, be able to, get some projects funded. I did try the Kickstarter route with my jazz group because we wanted to also go through a major label. And man, that was crazy and a lot of work. And I would, I might do it again in the future, but it was a lot, because especially with Kickstarter, if you don't make your quota, then you don't get that money.
Nothing.
Right.
And I want to say that was before like all the other ones like GoFundMe came out. And so, but yeah, luckily we're fortunate. We were able to get funded with a group that I have in Austin called Jazz Bones. But yeah, like recording albums, that is definitely expensive between just getting the engineer, the studio time, the post-production as well. Right. Yeah.
Are you replicating? Are you doing physical product or are you just doing everything online?
Yeah, we're still doing physical products.
Well, how many days are you on the road? It sounds like a whole lot more than I would want to be.
Yeah.
that means more than 5.
Fair.
Well, I mean, luckily I've had the sabbatical. And so, I haven't had my teaching component at Texas State. So it's been definitely more balanced. But normally, when I'm in school, golly, it's probably the 3 weeks out of the month. But, and that not a complete 3 weeks ago. I mean, I'm on campus too. Like I'm, teach for 3 days that I'm out on the road. Because I'm doing a lot of different things and I'm very fortunate to do it. I mean, subbing with different orchestras. My wife and I do our thing. I have a trombone quartet that tours and just, doing a lot of different, gigging here and there. And so I just try to keep it balanced,
Can you talk to us about the Jazz Bones?
Yeah, like that's actually one of my favorite groups. So actually I can even go back to college and, just my history with the Jazz Trombone Ensemble. When I was at University of Southern Mississippi for my bachelor's, I was part of a group called the Southern Miss Hub Bones, which we didn't create. It was going on way before we showed up.
Right.
And the hub, Hattiesburg is known as the hub city. So that's how the name came about. And we started that group my sophomore year. And then my junior year, we won the Capital Bones National Jazz Trombone Ensemble competition. And that's where I really had a love for this type of group because I love big band music. And this is like big band music, but better because there's no saxophones or trumpets, just bones and rhythm. And so
now we're getting real.
And so, like when we won, that's when I first met Matt Neese, who was a hero of mine.
Who?
And, yeah, you guys know Matt Neese.
oh, yeah, the guy I teach with at Shenandoah. Now, wasn't.
We should get him on the show.
Yeah, we should. Oh, wait, we did. Yeah, it was.
You already did.
It was unremarkable, but it's fine. He's a doctor. Yeah.
Dr. Neese.
Dr. Neese. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, that was like the first time I met Matt, and he was just so encouraging about like the whole jazz trombone ensemble. Those 2 albums that Capital Bones came out, like I could literally like sing every solo. I was enamored by like that genre. And so then I went to the University of Texas for grad school, and we started the University of Texas Jazz Bones, and we won those competitions again. And that group was really special because we were also the jazz orchestra trombone section. And just with jazz orchestra alone, we were rehearsing 6 hours a week. And then with Jazz Bones, we rehearsed like another 3. So like we were together like 9 hours a week, just shedding and just feeding off each other.
Well, that makes a big difference.
Oh yeah. And which really helped us after the fact because we were rehearsing with each other so much and just knew what everyone was doing. And we told each other, after we graduate, we should keep this thing going on because we love playing with each other. And maybe like we can record an album one day. And that happened. And now, like we still gig, and like not all the original members are in Central Texas. Everybody's kind of like all over the place, but actually a lot of our core members are still in Austin, and we bring in friends throughout the city. There's so many like killing trombone players in the Austin area, and we play at the Elephant Room, which is a really iconic jazz club in town. And we did have a monthly residency at this a jazz club called the Brass House that unfortunately closed down, and that tends to happen in some cities. But yeah, like we still get to play. Like we recorded the album on Summit Records, which was really special because everything on the album, with the exception of one track, was written by our friends. And it was just really special. And we do things from 2 bones to 4 bones to a quintet to a sextet, and it's always just a great hang when we all get together too.
Awesome,
so cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of hustle even when you get it paid for. There's a lot of hustle with tracking down the grants and then applying for them, and then even if the money comes in, then you gotta.
The reporting,
you need charts, and everything needs to get done, and it's important. Like I'm really glad that people like you are willing to put in all of that work, because it's an amazing amount of work. But I think it's important that we leave stuff behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really important to leave stuff behind. So, and when you get to do it with friends, it's Lance's always needs two boxes checked, like the money, the art, or the hang. And and when you're making albums, like the money is basically never going to be there, because you're not going to be able to get a $25,000 grant for an album that'll cost you $10,000 to make. You don't just get to keep $15,000. They tend to frown upon that. But when the art is great and the hang is great, then it's good. It's good. I'm glad people are still making albums, because Lance and I are old enough that you used to actually make money. Okay, can you believe that Boston Brass, which was like the last thing I was going to ask you about, because you just played with them, he has played with them significantly more recently than you or I have, Lance.
There you go.
But that's the list of people that can say that is getting longer and longer and longer. But back in the day, Boston Brass, we did not. I have no idea what their business model is now. But we paid for all future recordings. We paid for all ground transportation, all rental cars, vans, gas, buying more CD inventory. All of that was paid just from CD sales at concerts.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing!
Right?
It was about 10% of our annual gross was merch sales, or CD sales.
It was just CD. Yeah, there was no merch except for CDs. There was nothing. There was one night where we sold, and this was an outlier, but we sold over $3,000 worth of CDs at a concert.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that was before Lance's time, but yes. And then, but it's like a whole new world now, right? I mean, like, I don't care who the hell you are. Like, Andrea Bocelli ain't selling $3,000 worth of CDs. I'm sure he sells way more than that in merch, but at a stadium show, but like he's not selling $3,000 worth of compact discs at at an event. So yeah, it's interesting how the times have changed. So I'm really glad that people like you are still making albums. So 2 things left on the docket here. One is the Boston Brass, and then we of course need to get your advice for Jens. So he's this Canadian dude. He's nice most of the time. You just played with Boston Brass. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was a few weeks ago, and man, that was extremely fun. The group was just a whole bunch of monster players. We did the Kenton Christmas show, and I love Stan Kenton, and like that Boston Brass Kenton album, like just came up listening to that, so it was really surreal to be able to play like those tunes. I'm like, man, it was like I had to pinch myself. I'm like, golly, I got the call from Domingo. And, I've been a fan of his, and, he's like one of the sweetest cats.
Yeah, he is.
And, I'm like pinching myself. I'm like, golly, I'm looking to my right. I'm like, Domingo's right there. He's, killing. Everybody is killing in this band. And if I had to go back in time, if there's any big band that I could be a part of, it would be the Stan Kenton Orchestra. Right. Especially in the early 60s, because I loved that sound, especially with the mellophoniums. And so, yeah, just the opportunity to play that ridiculous music was absolutely amazing. And, like you guys said too, like even the hangs, like both nights were awesome too. Just getting a chance to just chat with people. And
that's great.
Yeah.
Those boys got edge.
I don't know. Making that album, I am not sure how like everyone lived and no one went to jail. Like oh my goodness. We made that, we recorded that album in Syracuse. in January. I mean, like, so there was like we did three things. There was like making the record, which was like every night from about 8 p.m. was when we would hit until like midnight or so. Sometimes we'd get done at like 11 p.m. and then we'd like pack up, get back to the hotel at midnight, and that's when the hang started.
Yeah.
And we turned the breakfast area at the hotel turned into like Party Central, like with the hotel's permission. And like we set up, there was a PlayStation, like playing like Taiko Drum Master on like the big TV in the kitchen area. And there was a full bar, and there was like poker with kids don't gamble and don't drink and stay in school. But there was like heated poker games like with real money changing hands. Like it was and the hang started at midnight, and that was like the unwind. And we had nothing to do the next day until 8 p.m. So it was like we were hanging down there until they were like, we need to serve breakfast here soon. Maybe like, oh yeah, I guess that's a thing, isn't it? That's like the whole reason this space exists. Yeah, why someone's not sleeping here. So yeah, that was and the art was amazing too. But yeah, that was a hell of a stretch. I'm not sure how we all survived.
Man, that sounds epic. That's awesome.
Yep, there was on that Taiko Drum Master game, there was a one of the tunes on there was Britney Spears' "Toxic," and there was one of the days I was encouraging him a lot that Jens was taking a solo on something, and he was trying to we were offering him money to throw Britney Spears' "Toxic" licks into his soloing, which was like, I mean, that's how loose the sessions were. I mean, that's how good the players were, was that we were being total jackasses. And, well, if anyone was getting frustrated with me, they didn't say, because I was one of the people who hired everybody. So, it gives you a little bit of a longer leash to be a jackass. So JD, put it this way, JD wasn't annoyed, and that's all that really mattered. So yeah, he was down. So, but yeah, God, that was fun. So, so speaking of our dear friend Jens, who maybe that's why he's been having the chop problems, because maybe it's just a little bit too much Britney Spears. But what advice would you have for our dear friend Jens with these dire chop problems that he's been going through for many years?
Well, I mean, first I have to say, I mean, chop problems are not a great thing, and so like I'm sorry, Jens, that you're going through that. I'm definitely going to be praying for you. But I thought long and hard about this, and everybody uses these different lip ointments that are out there. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of great stuff. I mean, I use them too, but I feel like what would really help Jens, I came up with this amazing barbecue sauce.
Oh, and there we go.
But the secret is you have to get these hot jalapenos from South Texas. And I crush them and I mix them up, and I mix them into this nice, sweet, hot barbecue sauce. And he should just dip his lips.
It's like a meat tenderizer.
Yeah, exactly.
I got you.
Exactly. And it's just going to take all the swelling down. And yeah, I mean, he's going to be like brand new.
Wow.
He's going to smell like brisket, but...
That's not a bad thing.
No, that's not a bad thing. There you go. I like it. I like the specificity too. It's like the Southern Texas jalapenos that get crushed.
Pretty good.
And, that is pretty good. There we go. Jens, we're trying to help you out. So we on Black Friday, Zazzle, which you can go to Zazzle.com. If you Google Brass Junkies and Zazzle, I think it's Zazzle.com/thebrassjunkies. But you can get T-shirts, you can get like tote bags, you can get mugs, you can get cooking aprons, you can with like either the Brass Junkies or our old school Pray for Jens logo. And
nice.
They had this crazy sale on, I think it was actually Cyber Monday. And I went on there and I spent like 450 of Pedalote Media dollars sending a mug and an apron to a whole bunch of previous guests. And Lance, I have not told you this yet.
I didn't know.
Trent Austin was one of the people who I sent that to, and he put the apron on and held up the mug, and then sent a photo to Jens, who texted him back with some choice words. It was like a long, yeah, it was really good stuff. So yeah, so there you go.
And the link to the show, to the store is in the show notes as well.
There we go. So
you can get playing cards. You could get a magnet. Tote bags, aprons, onesie.
Oh man, Brass Junkies merch. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, man. That's what I'm talking about. So
tell your friends.
All right. Well, Martin, this has been great.
So cool meeting you.
Yeah, Domingo told us that you were really hard to talk to, but I mean, I don't agree with that at all. He's been very pleasant. If Domingo ever said that, even trying to be helpful, that would literally be the meanest thing that Domingo has ever said about any human in his life. He's like,
I know, right?
He's the nicest guy like in the world. Yeah,
exactly.
He's like James Markey, who we really need to get on here. But like, yeah, I mean, everybody that knows, Markey is just like, he's impossibly nice all the time. Like no one has a bad word to say about him.
They traded way up both player and personality wise there.
They did. Yeah, exactly. Lance, you did what you could. Yeah, I see. As Lance taught me that, like, I really like what you tried to do there. So yeah, that's always a good. Whenever I give that to a student in a lesson, they always go like, "Oh."
I don't think you could have done that any better.
Yeah, exactly. Or my favorite wise ass line, which I always use on the rare chances I get to play with the National Symphony. So I always end by saying, "I'd rather play with you guys than the best guys in town," which always cracks them up, because subs are supposed to just be quiet and deferential, and I know my place, but then I also I think people would be a little worried if I didn't say things like that on gigs. I'd be like, is Hitz dying? Like, is he? It's like, should we hire him again? Is this it? I mean, yeah. Anyway, I mean, yeah, he's like he's 8th down on the sub list, but he's good enough. Like, if he's dying, we can get him in here for a couple more. So, anyway,
that was whelming.
Yeah, that was whelming. Yeah. Okay, Martin, hang out for the bonus episode. For those of you who are new to the show, first of all, Jens does not have chop problems. There's a long story there. He deserves all the abuse because he used to give it to other people, and we've been driving this joke into the ground for almost 6 years, so thank you for helping us with that quest, Martin. And you can find the bonus episode with Martin is 1 week after this drops. You will hear Martin's bonus episode as well as bonus episodes with every guest that we've had ever since we started those, which is a lot of them now. You can go to patreon.com/thebrassjunkies, and you instantly get access to all of them. And we also have other podcasts, actually, that we do that are exclusive to Patreon patrons of the show, like the Jacob's Quotes podcast and the Music Practice Coach podcast. And there's like a whole bunch there's so much bonus content. It's crazy. So you can head over to Patreon or to Pedal Note Media /Patreon. And you can find the links there. And Martin's going to hang on for the bonus episode. So thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And that is going to do it for another episode of The Brass Junkies. You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to hear the bonus episode featuring today's guest, please visit patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to learn how you can support the show and instantly access all bonus materials, as well as gain access to a special patron-only Facebook group. The Brass Junkies is produced by the amazing, wonderful, and truly inspirational Will Houchin. The theme music was composed by Fernando Dados and performed by Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. We are at Pray for Jens on Twitter and Instagram, and have a Facebook page at facebook.com/prayforjens. You can find out more about the Brass Junkies and all the other Pedal Note Media podcasts at pedalnotemedia.com. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.